Chapter 16 Winds of Change. Lunar date 3.1625.5.32. 3 hours and 35 minutes after dayrise. Abigale's speeder flew over the forest on the slopes of the Corkin Mountains near Artanikst. Beneath her, the leaves on the trees were already starting to shift from the deep greens of summer to the reds, yellows, and oranges of autumn. As beautiful as nature was, Abigale's focus wasn't on the leaves or the trees. It wasn't even on driving her speeder. Candy was handling that. Instead, she was deep in conversation with Dorn via her nexus as the winds of change ravaged her life. I don't care why you are apologizing, Dorn. I know you don't mean it. You are only doing this because your grandparents think I am good for your political aspirations. You care nothing about me. You never have. Abigale was hurt, mad, and full of scorn. I told them this wasn't going to work, Dorn sighed in annoyance. You know, for a time I was willing to give you the chance. I enjoyed being in a relationship with you. Dorn tried to sound authentic. Abigale didn't believe it for a second. She hated the truth behind his words. No, you enjoy being with someone who couldn't use the prestigious power over you, she scoffed. I gave you freedoms other girls didn't because you knew I needed your prestige to make a name for my family. I have no idea where the idea came from that I am scared of someone who has more prestige than me. That isn't true. However, it doesn't matter what I say. Your mind is already made up. Believe what you want. I did actually care. Dorn was staring at her, still doing his best to be compassionate. Abigale laughed. I find that hard to believe when you were with a different girl every week. So what now, Dorn? Are you actually going to take your life seriously? Or are you going to go running back to your grandparents to find you someone who makes you likable? Watch your tongue, Abigale, Dorn threatened, the compassion gone from his voice. Remember, I'll be someone of power and influence in Palmara in a few years. She couldn't believe her ears. Is that a threat, Dornblosk? Merely something to keep in mind, Abigale. As an archaeologist, you may need certain favors from time to time from the Marosian government. Especially now that you are no longer connected to the Alyce project. Words caught in her throat. After she threw her nexus back in Huxtriel, she didn't dare approach Dr. Davis and try to explain herself. She took a public transport back to Artanikst and flew her speeder back home to Wulfton. She ignored her parents for 2 days before finally explaining to them everything that happened. A war of words broke out, and Abigale went back to ignoring them until she was ready to leave for school. How did you know about that? Dr. Davis came and asked me about you after you disappeared that night. Since you weren't there, he didn't mention you as part of the project. You missed your chance. I will get another, she shot back, the guilt still plaguing her mind. I made a huge mistake. That may have been my only chance and I blew it. Maybe you will. This is why we should stay on good terms, Abigale. I can be a help to you in the future, even if we aren't together. What's in it for you? Abigale knew he was playing an angle. Do you honestly think I am a monster, Abigale? I do have a heart. I do care for people. Yeah, well, you have an odd way of showing it. It must have burned you that I gave Daniel the time of day over you. Daniel Sheppard is meaningless, Dorn arrogantly replied. Though I hear he is enjoying quite the life of prestige. He smiled, knowing his words were daggers into her heart. She wanted to slap him. Maybe he has finally seen the light. Unlike you. There is no convincing you. Enjoy your life, Abigale. Just keep in mind that if I am magistrate one day, you will have to speak to me with respect, even if you don't. I won't ever vote for you, Dorn, she scoffed. You have my word on that. Have it your way. He ended the call. Abigale slammed her fist against the seat next to her. She was 5 minutes away from Artanikst and was supposed to be meeting up with Emmitt and Seth to spend some time together before classes began. Thankfully, Shyloe was going to be joining them the following day. She needed some time to relax and breathe from her tumultuous summer. As if on cue, her nexus chimed again. It was her parents. She hovered over the ignore button, but stopped. No, I might as well get it all over with now. Dread hung over her as she contemplated the call. I have time before I arrive. Let them yell and scream and tell me how disappointed they are in me. Let them. Won't be the first time. It will be the last. I am done being their puppet. A small sliver of hope existed that this one time her parents were going to understand. The sliver of hope lasted only a few seconds. Dorn just called us and informed us that your relationship is over? Her mother raised her voice in anger. What did you do, Abigale? How did you mess this up? Why is this my fault? Abigale yelled back. I've done everything you wanted me to do. I stopped talking to Daniel and ruined that friendship. I got back together with Dorn, even though I never wanted to be with him. I put the family's needs for prestige before my own dreams and desires. You want our family to be great and among the elite with prestige, but I don't care. I don't care about any of that. Well, you better start caring, her father scolded. You have 1 semester left to find a husband. It'll be more difficult when you're out of the academy and working your job. There are not many ways for you to meet someone with high prestige while you are digging around in the dirt. Her father's voice was filled with disgust. You have disappointed us again, Abigale. Maybe if you hadn't spent your time with this Daniel fellow, you'd still be with Dorn. This is your screw-up. It is up to you to fix it. The tears were starting to fill Abigale's eyes. She hated all of this. Hurting Daniel as she did, faking her feelings for Dorn, her parents, all of it. No, she said firmly. I will not be this family's savior. I am not some pawn for you to sacrifice to the highest bidder. I am your daughter, your own flesh and blood. She felt strange standing up to her parents. But all you've ever seen me as is a piece to your grand plan to achieve a greater prestige. That isn't love. No more, Dad and Mum. No more. Watch your tone, young lady, her father responded indignantly. Or what? She shot back without taking the time to weigh her words. Her parents exchanged a look between themselves. Her mother was the one to speak. Her words were pointed and lacked any emotion. Abigale, your disrespect towards us has to end. We're your parents. We know what is best for you. Until you learn to accept this, you will not be allowed back into our house. She couldn't breathe. What are you saying, Mum? Her father responded. You are no longer our daughter until you are ready to put the needs of our family first before your own. Shock shot through her body. She didn't react. She didn't know how to react. Hundreds of thoughts raced through her mind, yet none of them comprehensible. Everything was crashing down around her at once. Anger and sadness combined into a convoluted sense of despair and hatred. Her lip twitched as she gave the only response on her tongue. Goodbye. She hung up her nexus and instructed Candy to park in her usual spot outside of her dorm. She slammed her fist against the seat 5 times before exiting her speeder. For the time being, her anger was enough to keep her tears at bay. Emmy and Seth met her at her dorm building and helped her carry her bags. Besides a simple greeting, she didn't say anything to them until they reached her room. She knew if she started to talk, she wouldn't stop. Not knowing if it would be anger and yelling or sorrowful and sobbing, kept her silent as neither option was optimal for a public display. Is everything okay? Emmeline inquired as she snuggled into a chair with a blanket. Abigale sat cross-legged on her bed while Seth found a comfortable spot on the floor. Finally, like water breaking through a dam of rocks, Abigale opened her mouth and shared how Dorn broke up with her and how she told her parents she was finished playing along with their games. At one point, she saw Emmeline messing around with her nexus. Feeling like she was boring them, she wrapped her story up quickly. What's the point of any of this? Abigale questioned, burying her head in her hands as she relayed the story to her friends. The tears finally started to flow down her face. Emmeline walked over, sat down, and hugged Abigale. I can't imagine what you are going through, Abigale. This is all terrible. Seth and I are here for you. Thanks. Abigale wrapped her arms around her friend. I envy you, you know. Emmy looked over at Abigale with confusion as they pulled away from one another. Me? Why? You have parents who love you because you are their daughter. You have a boyfriend who loves you simply because of who you are, and nothing to do with freaking prestige. Some days I wonder if... She caught herself. Should I say it? Why not? What else do I have to lose? I don't know, if it might be better to actually follow Arnion. And I say that not even knowing if I believe Arnion is real or not, she quickly added. I just know you do in your life. Well, it looks better than mine at the moment. Emmeline sighed heavily. I'm not the best at talking about this stuff. I know none of us are much of a fan of him at the moment, but Daniel always seemed to know what to say when people had questions about Arnion. Yeah, he did, Abigale agreed, choking back a sob. I don't want you to think following Arnion means your life will be perfect and everything will always make sense, Emmy told her. It doesn't. You said before that Arnion speaks to you. Surely that helps. Well, yeah, Arnion doesn't speak to us all the time. It isn't like there's another voice in our mind constantly speaking. Sometimes the voice comes as a soft whisper when we are looking for guidance. Other times it's more firm when we need correction. And still, there are times when I believe I hear Arnion laughing. Emmy chuckled a little, as if she was remembering a certain moment in her past when Arnion laughed at her. Really? A small smile crept onto Abigail's face. Yeah. Right, Seth? Emmy turned to face her boyfriend. Oh, yeah, Seth replied. Like Emmy said, Arnion doesn't promise us a pristine life. Instead, Arnion does promise to be with us at all times when we're at our highest highs and lowest lows. Arnion is always there. He looked to the side of the room before turning back and resuming the conversation. I guess that may explain why you think our lives looks better. They aren't always. Emmy and I have our own battles. Emmy nodded in agreement. Heck, we're dealing with one right now with Daniel. But we hand it over to Arnion, or at the very least we try to. We aren't always the best with it. Except, we don't suffer or struggle alone. We have a community who supports us, Seth smiled. I've never had that, Abigale shared with sadness. What do you mean? Emmy asked. A community to support me. I have Shyloe and she's a great friend, but that's it. No one else. My parents don't support me. One of my brothers, Mika, does show an interest in my life from time to time. We don't talk that often, and he doesn't really know all the pressure our parents put on me. Even if he did, I'm not sure if there's much he could do. For Dorn, I was only an object he tried to control. Hard to feel heard when you're constantly viewed as below someone else. You are wrong about one thing, Abigale. She tilted her head at Emmeline. What's that? You do have a community now. Seth and I are here. Emmy took Abigale's hand in hers, along with Shyloe. We can be your community. Yeah, but I'm not a follower of Arnion. So? Seth challenged. That doesn't change anything. I wasn't going to mention anything yet, Emmy began. When you were sharing what happened between you and your parents, I messaged my parents about opening up one of our spare rooms for you to come and stay, if needed. They both agreed without any hesitation. I hope you don't mind that I asked. Abigale's mouth gaped open. She tried to speak. No words came out. I didn't even think of the fact that I didn't have a place to go if I wanted to get away for a weekend, or even after graduation. I'd have no home until I found a job and was allotted my living area. She still found it hard to fathom. I've received more love from these two in the past couple months than I have from my entire family in my whole life. Emmeline shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I feel like I may have overstepped. No! The guttural sound came from Abigail's throat as the tears began to cascade down her cheeks again. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I didn't even realize I didn't have a home anymore. Tell your parents, thank you. She grabbed Emmeline and started to cry on her friend's shoulder. Arnion, I don't know if you are real. I don't know if you sent me Emmeline and Joseph. But thank you. I still am not sure if I want to follow you or not. But I'm becoming more open to the idea. In between tears, she thought she heard one of them speak. I'm sorry, did you say something, Emmy? No, Emmy answered. Oh, okay. The whisper came again. All right, I definitely heard something that time. Seth? Seth shook his head. Emmeline glanced over at Joseph and back at Abigale. We aren't saying anything honest. Wait a minute, Emmy, Seth interjected. Abigale, what does the voice sound like? She tried to remember the sounds. I'm not sure. At first I thought it was a female voice, and the second time I believe it was a male? Though looking back, it was as if maybe they were intermixed. I don't know. It's just all confusing. Interesting, Seth replied. You don't think? Emmy asked Seth. I do. He nodded at Emmy and then looked up at Abigale before continuing. Abigail, Emmy and I are going to be silent. I want you to close your eyes and quiet your thoughts. I know it's going to be difficult with everything going on in your life right now, but just trust us. Abigail had never heard Seth be so serious during her time of knowing him. With that in mind, she decided to listen to him without question. She closed her eyes and started to monitor her breathing. Her mind was racing with thoughts about her parents, Dorn, Emmeline, Joseph, Shyloe, the academy, her future, Chancellor Natalie Allen's death, Arnion, her egg sandwich she had for breakfast, the fact she hadn't had any coffee to drink yet, Daniel, her fight with Daniel, meeting Daniel for the first time. She opened her eyes, her heart feeling heavy. Maybe now is not the best time for this. It's all good, Emmy assured her. There is no rush. Thanks. A beep came from all of their Nexi. Seth was the first to speak. Huh. Interesting. What? Emmy asked before looking down. Oh, wow. Abigail was now curious. No way. She clicked on the highlighted message and shifted it to the central platform on her work desk. She didn't ask if the others wanted to see it. She knew they would. Deep down, Daniel was still their friend despite how he treated them lately. The image of Daniel appeared. His message was being displayed for all to see on the hub. His eyes were red, though from what Abigail wasn't sure. Has he been crying? She recognized the background as his parents' garden. Hello. My name is Daniel Sheppard, though I'm sure most of you know that after the video went viral last month in the hub. That video and some other things are the subject of this message. Many of you will likely scoff at what I am about to say and maybe even make fun of me, but I must do what is right. I can't hide from the truth any longer. He took a deep breath, preparing for the plunge. First of all, I want to publicly apologize to Nolan Actor, the Red Eagles, for my actions. It was unbecoming of me as a fellow competitor and honestly as a man to act in this fashion. I hope you can find it within yourself to forgive me. As well, Comey Hudson, I ask you for your forgiveness for overstepping and kissing you in front of the whole world. I know you broke up with Nolan, but my hope is that you can work past this and be reconciled with one another. Secondly, some called me a hero for standing up to Nolan. Others called me a hypocrite because I claimed to follow the way of Arnion. I am neither a hero or a hypocrite. I messed up as we all do from time to time. If you defended my actions, I ask that you no longer do so. If you called me out, I accept your judgment. I was wrong. Many of you may not understand why I believe I was wrong, and that is all right. I'm not doing this so that you will understand. I'm doing this because it is the right thing to do. Thirdly, I spent the last 2 months trying to be someone I'm not. I have tasted the rewards of prestige and found myself empty inside while still wanting more and more. I've allowed myself to become the very monster I swore I'd never be. I've been a real coda to the people I claim to love. I've hurt people. I've hurt my friends and I've hurt my family. His voice started to become shaky with emotion. He took a few moments to gather himself before continuing. Tallon, my younger brother, I'm sorry we haven't spent any time together this summer. I promise to make it right. The next 2 days are all yours before I head back to the academy. I know it won't make up for the whole summer, but let's make some great memories that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. I apologize to my parents for not being the son you raised me to be. Thank you for not abandoning me and for caring enough to be real and straight with me. Your words of wisdom helped reclaim me and remind me of the person I truly want to be. Before continuing, Daniel took another deep breath. He tried to hide the shame present, but his eyes gave him away. Abigail recognized it easily enough due to the shame she carried. To the girls I spent time with this summer, you probably don't think we did anything wrong, and from your point of view, we didn't. Still, from my perspective, I did not treat you with compassion, and for that I must ask your forgiveness. You may never give it because you think it's foolish of me to ask. You'll likely just brush this off and continue to live your lives, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, I still needed to ask. Emmeline and Joseph, you are my best friends. He started to cry. Abigail's heart reached out to him. I have treated you like garbage. I overreacted to situations that weren't your fault. I yelled at you when I shouldn't have. I failed to be devoted to you as a friend. I let you down as a team captain and as a friend. I can't erase what I have done, but I will commit myself to being a better friend in the future if you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I don't want to imagine life without you both in it.
Seth, Emmy, I am so sorry. If I could take it all back, I would in a heartbeat. He wiped his nose with his sleeve of his shirt and took a few seconds to compose himself before continuing. And finally, I apologize to you, Abigale. I spat on your friendship because of my own misunderstanding of what it means to truly honor you. I thought if I was nice, then that would be all I needed to do. I was wrong. Honoring you isn't about being nice. It's about being a friend who tells you the truth with mercy and grace, even if it is something you may not want to hear. I failed at that. Many times. He sighed. So, Abigale, I am sorry. I am sorry for being a coda. I am sorry for being a douchebag. I am sorry for not realizing my mistakes sooner. I am sorry for hurting you in ways I never thought I would. I am sorry that our friendship is likely over forever and I will miss out on having you as part of my life. He paused. Maybe one day you will be able to forgive me. Until then, I will continue to try to be a better person than I have been for the past 2 months. There was an awkward silence. Daniel continued to peer into his nexus. I didn't really think about how I was going to end this. Thanks for watching, I guess. I'm sure the comments will be enjoyable. I'll see some of you later. Right now, I'm going to go spend some time with my brother. See ya. Emmeline, Joseph, and Abigale sat quietly in the dorm room as the message ended. For the second time, Abigale was held speechless. This time, even her mind was silenced. And that was when she heard the whisper.
Abigale, my daughter, I am with you.
Thank you for listening to my book Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hinei Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.